Everybody hear me okay? Thumbs up if that's okay. Sweet. All right. Anybody has anything to kind of wave at me or throw at me in the chat? My friend Rick here is going to give me a hand in kind of monitoring the chat. If there's anything that I don't cover in our quick 45-minute session here that you want to reach out and talk to me or Rick about, my email is joel@hftd.org, and Rick's is rick@hftd.org. I will also drop that in the chat. But Rick and I are incredibly accessible. And when our computers aren't yelling at us or tornadoes aren't barreling down on us, we're actually pretty tech savvy, believe it or not. So what I'm going to do while we're doing this here presentation is normally we have a number of people on the screen and I'm able to kind of interact back and forth. But I understand that tonight is a stormy one. So we got people hunkering down. I know that my son's baseball practice was canceled, which is kind of okay because we were kind of sick of standing outside for a while there. But what we normally do is a little back and forth. We call this the Things We Don't Say Q&A, which is an attempt to kind of truncate all of the things that we do in our 1.5 to 2 hour education in a little bit more of a conversational back and forth. Knowing that we don't have a lot of people on board this evening, that's totally okay. But what we're going to be doing is kind of diving into some topics about what we do as an organization and what our goals are, but then also talk about a couple different topics that are specific to our educational programming, just to be able to start a conversation in the Westmont Public Library and Village of Westmont communities, brought to you by Hope for the Day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop on a quick screen share here so that you guys can see some of the slides, and then I'll hop off and then I'll hop back on. It'll be fun. Everybody will love it. So let me just give me 2 seconds while I get this thing launched here. All right. How are we looking?
Yeah, if you play that, you should be good.
Beautiful. All right, so my name is Joel Frieders. I'm a Scorpio. I like long walks on the beach and fluffy white pillows. I work for an organization called Hope for the Day out of Chicago. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is hell-bent on getting communities all over the country and the planet to talk about their mental health as a movement towards proactive prevention, proactive suicide prevention. We do this in a number of different ways, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but just a little background on me. I'm 40 years old. I got 3 amazing kids, a 12-year-old and 2 10-year-olds. I have a beautiful wife, which I adore. My day job is I run a compounding pharmacy in Aurora, Illinois. And one of my passions is suicide prevention, which is how I got involved in Hope for the Day after the loss of my friend Mike Malinowski in July of 2017. I'm also an alderman currently in the United City of Yorkville. I'm on my 7th year, the 3rd year of my 2nd term. I probably won't run for re-election again because basically my workload with Hope for the Day has been increasing ever since I got involved. As I said, I lost a good friend of mine back in 2017, and ever since then, I basically had to come to the grips with the fact that I was never really taught how to deal with the things that nobody talks about. Which is interesting because the name of our educational curriculum here is called Things We Don't Say. So Hope for the Day actually has a team of clinicians which helps us to navigate the language with which most mental health conversations lack. And that the big thing that most conversations lack is the fact that they're not peer-led, meaning they're coming from the top down. Normally you have a clinician giving you advice or telling you how to do things, but there's always these things that they're not really sharing with you because there's no real personal experience. Well, Hope for the Day is based on the act of storytelling. And that's why I'm here to kind of talk about the stuff that, nobody really talks about. And that's one of the reasons why our education is titled The Things We Don't Say. So at Hope for the Day, what we do is we accomplish something called proactive prevention in 3 different ways. But first, I want to give our quick kind of overarching description of our organization. We are a nonprofit movement empowering the conversation on proactive suicide prevention and mental health education. And we do that, like I said, in 3 different ways. First is we raise the visibility. It's not just raising the visibility of the resources and telling people how to get help and who to go talk to. It's trying to lower the stigma about simply talking about the stuff that bothers you. And this is something where it's not just me saying, hey, here's a phone number to call when you're in a moment of crisis. It's not just me saying, hey, that's my therapist's office over there. It's me wearing clothes that remind people it's okay not to be okay. It's me talking about the things that people don't normally talk about as a way of normalizing that conversation. So I'm raising the visibility of the fact that it's okay not to be okay through everything from the wristbands that I wear to the shirts that I wear to the posters on my wall. Everything about how I communicate with those people around me is me reminding them that it is okay not to be okay. And by me doing that, I'm raising the visibility of the resources around them. Because once we remove that stigma about the things that kind of suck to talk about, maybe we'll be more free to have those conversations, and the likelihood of us actually attempting something like suicide or personal injury or harm or hurting someone else can be minimized because we'll have the opportunity to get things off of our chest. The second tenet here is called getting educated, which is kind of what we're doing here, albeit this is a much shorter version of what we do on a much larger scale. Getting educated is simply starting a baseline conversation about mental health, making sure that we have an understanding, kind of like a glossary of terms, to have a better grasp on how we can not only take care of those around us and be aware of what they might be going through, but also kind of give ourselves a break and have a better understanding of what's going on upstairs and how we can kind of prevent the moment of crisis. And then the third tenet is how we take action. And that's how we partner with communities like Westmont Public Library and the Village of Westmont. It's what we've done through that National Suicide Prevention and Action Month proclamation that I started out of the United City of Yorkville. It's starting conversations in communities about the things that people don't normally talk about, especially when it comes to mental health. We partner with corporations, we partner with food companies, we partner with restaurants, we partner with breweries. We have a lot of fun projects. And it sounds strange to talk about something that's enjoyable and fun when you're talking about mental health and suicide prevention, but it's the honest truth, because if you can't talk about the things in front of people without shame, what ends up happening is you start bottling things up, and then bad things happen, which is what we all know. So by taking action in people's communities, in these corporations, and in these companies, we enable people to start a conversation from a standpoint of understanding that it's okay not to be okay. What are we going to do about it? So proactive prevention is, in a nutshell, is those three things: visibility, education, and taking action. All right, let's see if we're going to move on. All right, so proactive prevention is just what it sounds. It's starting the conversation on mental health before it adversely impacts our lives. Basically, if you think about your teeth, and I have 3 children right now, and I swear I have more arguments about them brushing their teeth at least once a day than anything else. If we don't take care of the things that we use every day, the likelihood of it maintaining itself and keeping that same performance gets a little bit smaller every day. So what we want to do is we want to talk about the stuff that bothers us before it gets so big inside of us that it explodes. Because we all know what happens when you shake a bottle of pop, it just goes everywhere. So in order to kind of convey that message, we like to use the analogy of going to the dentist or going to the doctor. You're going to go a little bit once in a while, not when things are wrong, but as a way of kind of maintaining a balance, of kind of bringing yourself back down to a level of homeostasis where you kind of feel normal. And I know that normal is a strange term right now because there is no such thing as anything being normal right now. But if we take care of our cars with an oil change every 3,000 to 6,000 miles, if we take care of our refrigerators or our air conditioners every few years, just to make sure that they're running the right way, we defrost the freezer. These are all, proactive measures that we're taking to make sure that this thing is going to run for the long haul. So if we don't take care of our mental health by focusing on proactive prevention, what ends up happening is we get closer and closer to that crisis stage until we get inside that crisis stage. And now we know that, well, we might have lost the opportunity to kind of bring ourselves back down. So this includes learning methods with which to calm yourself down. This includes learning methods to kind of say, you know what, I do need a break from my phone or my work or my email or whatever it might be, just to be able to do something that you enjoy to kind of take the load off. And that doesn't always mean that you're going to go out and drink a 12-pack of beer, but it could mean that you go out and you have a beer and then you go for a run. I know a lot of people that do that. It's entertaining the idea that it's okay to take a break, but more than what I'm trying to say is that it is okay not to be okay. And to be able to focus on this proactive prevention, we have to be able to do something with it. So what we've done in a roundabout way is we've dumbed down the conversation on mental health so far that nearly everyone on the planet can understand what we're talking about. So if you can think of the mind like a bottle of soda, you can kind of personally picture what's going on in your mind every day. And you've got a number of different things that are impacting how your brain operates right now. There's 2 different categories, but there's 3 specific things. So the first thing we want to talk about is the internal. So the internal shaking of your bottle is things like undiagnosed mental illness. Not saying that everyone's got a mental illness inside of them, but it's kind of like we're all holding a deck of cards and we only really know a couple of the cards that have been played so far. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we don't know. Think about it like your genetic blueprint that nobody really has access to until there's a problem. It's almost like you go to Christmas dinner 5 years after the last time you saw your great uncle Hal, and somebody talks about him like, yeah, was he a big drinker? What was his deal? And somebody says, well, no, he was undiagnosed schizophrenic or something like that. And it's not that because you're related to him that you now have that, but the likelihood of you having that possibility or that propensity means that, hey, maybe there is a reason why I am the way that I am, and I can talk to a medical doctor, because that then and there is a medical experience. So if you can understand the fact that you don't always understand what has been shaking your bowel all this time, the likelihood of getting to a place of having an understanding is increased when you open yourselves up to the idea that maybe I should talk to a doctor about this. So the internal shaking of your bottle can be constant. And if you don't recognize the fact that all of the things that you do to calm down aren't calming you down, well, that's cause to go talk to a doctor or a counselor or a friend who has a little bit of experience. It's okay to not be okay, but you have to kind of understand that we don't know everything that's inside of us. We don't know every family member that's had diabetes. We don't know all of these things. But the things that we do know mean that if we have a likelihood to actually experience something, maybe we should open ourselves up to the idea of actually speaking to a medical practitioner to understand that better. So that's the first one. That's the first thing shaking our bottle, the stuff that we don't know, the internal stimulus, right? Then there's the second one, which is the external, and it's pretty obvious. You've got traffic, you've got taxes, you've got when your neighbor is doing construction on his backyard, but instead of starting at 7:30, which is the policy in the community that which you live, they actually start at 6:30, and it's your only day off to sleep. That can really shake your bottle. I totally get it. The things that tick me off are constantly shaking my bottle. But then let's all back up a little bit. The external things that have maybe traumatized us over the years. And I know the word trauma in and of itself is relatively stigmatized because we think, oh, the only people who have ever experienced trauma are those who have, maybe, been in a plane crash or been in an auto accident that was so terrible that they didn't have the option of, what's the word I'm looking for, healing from something like that. Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we experience as humans on the planet where we are traumatized. Think about it like a brain sprain, a psychological injury where something happens, whether it's quick, a little bit over time, to somebody in front of us, to ourselves, on a TV screen, on a big movie screen. All of these things can all impact us differently. And one of the things that we learn at Hope for the Day is that the same experience, the same incident experienced by two different people can have two different sets of traumas because everybody experiences similar things completely differently. The intensity can be 1,000% different between two different people. I know that I don't really give two hoots about thunder, but my dog is not a fan of thunder. So what does that mean? That her experience is invalid? No. Thunder shakes her bottle. Well, repeated exposure to that thunder, well, for me, I just kind of, I glaze over it. I lived by a train growing up, so it doesn't really bother me. Well, my puppy's a little bit different. And yeah, I'm not going to get into dogs versus humans, but just to kind of dumb it down because my dog was barking a few minutes ago because of the thunder outside. It's understanding that the same thing can affect two different people differently, but it's shaking your bottle. So that goes back to that idea of stigma. So if we've got a group of people who are experiencing one specific experience, everybody's intensity level is going to be different. And everybody is going to be responding to that type of experience differently. So if we understand that, what we should be able to do is understand that in and of itself is us hitting a stigma head on. And when we understand what a stigma is, we have a better idea of understanding why we might subconsciously respond to someone who's experiencing something differently than the way that we are. So the definition of stigmas are social and cultural factors that influence and try to dictate how we are permitted to express ourselves as individuals. This can be as simple as boys don't cry. This can be as simple as girls do cry. This can be as simple as saying that, oh, if you're a tall black guy, you must play basketball. Oh, if you're a short white guy with glasses, you must do a lot of physics. See, they can be super general, but they can also be incredibly specific. Meaning, if you think about your house or your life like a house, every room that you enter inside of and every interaction that you have with people, you change the way that you respond and you behave because of who you're with and where you are. It's almost like pulling up to a stoplight. You're 17 years old, you just got your driver's license, brand new clean car, and you're bumping some loud music, right? Well, if you pull up to a lemonade stand with a bunch of kids, if you got a half wit in your brain, you're probably going to turn it down because you don't want to, take off the parents of that kid, right? Super general, I understand. But what I'm trying to do is explain that everywhere you go, you are faced with stigmas. Unfortunately, one of the biggest stigmas that we're dealing with is the fact that we don't talk about our mental health Because it's taboo. It's something that we don't want to bring up because we don't want to put our stuff on you. I always talk about the fact that I routinely stigmatize myself away from being able to just share the stuff that bothers me. And it's something like, I'll give you a quick example. So me and my friend Rick here, we have meetings once in a while back when the world was open. And I would have, one hell of a morning just trying to get out of the house. Didn't have enough gas, so I had to stop and get gas. I'm already running late. I didn't have any coffee filters, so I couldn't make coffee on the way. All these things are going wrong, and I just want to go tell my friend Rick how frustrated I am. And then on the way into the office, I find out that one of my coworkers, let's say one of them lost their full-time job, right? They lost their day job. Most of us at Hope for the Day right now aren't working full-time for Hope for the Day just yet. So if I find out that another one of my coworkers at Hope for the Day lost their full-time job, I'm probably going to stigmatize myself into not talking about the stuff that was originally bothering me. So part of the reason why that is stigmatizing and I'm stigmatizing myself is because I'm taking the things that are bothering me and I'm saying that they don't matter to anyone else. And then I bottle them up, which means I'm literally shaking the bottle. If you do that 5 days in a row, on day 6, you've now got literally 5 days of things that you needed to get off your chest all bottled up. And when you understand that those things can compound over time, you need to understand that just because something might sound stupid when you think about it, doesn't mean that it isn't valid. It's almost like the discussion between, police that are, abusing their power and killing people means that you don't somehow also support good police. You do have the ability to do both. You can have room in your heart to support good ones and want better for the bad ones, right? Well, the same is true when we're stigmatizing ourselves just about the bad stuff that happens in our day, however small, however stupid, right? I can get a flat tire and run out of gas and complain about that at the same time that you can tell me that you lost your job or maybe you lost a relative to breast cancer. It doesn't mean that they don't exist, they can't coexist. It might mean that you might not publicly complain about a flat tire or running out of gas, but you certainly don't think that that doesn't matter just because someone else had a bad experience. Stigmas can literally silence us to the fact that we have nowhere to go but explode. And that's what we're hoping to kind of contain here when we talk about proactive prevention. We want to allow people to have conversations about the stuff that's bothering them in an environment where they're not going to be penalized because it isn't as dramatic as, say, losing a job or losing a loved one. There is a place, there is a space to talk about the things that bother you. It doesn't always have to be a counselor. It doesn't have to always be a therapist. That's one of the reasons why the conversation with Hope for the Day is always about starting it from a peer-led perspective, because the therapist is going to want to sit there and listen to you, whereas a friend or a trusted ear is going to try to listen and then say, all right, well, I'm glad I'm here for you. When we get a taco. Those are the things that therapists don't always do. I mean, if my counselor started offering me tacos during the sessions, I think I would go every other day. But that's one of the things that we're trying to accomplish at Hope for the Day is to try to hit those stigmas right in the stomach and actually say, it doesn't matter that your problems, in your opinion, feel small. And it doesn't matter that, in your opinion, other people's problems feel bigger than that. There are space for both of them. And if you don't get both of those things off of your chest and be able to properly emote those things, that's when bad things can happen. So one of the things that we do in our discussions is we try to funnel people into the proper areas to talk about the things that they might need help with. We want to remind people it's okay not to be okay. We want to encourage people not just to use these phone numbers. We want to encourage people to actually look inside their community and see who is actually making an impact when it comes to mental health. Just because you've never used a therapist or a counselor doesn't mean that it's impossible to find one. And this is the back of our resource card. I'm going to turn off the video here in a second and kind of show you what I'm talking about. It's an exact duplicate of what's on the screen. And what we've been able to do, not just through, here we go. Not just through, I got a thumb that's here, dear. Sorry. Oh, thanks, Rick. These types of cards don't just tell people about the actual resources, the nationally vetted resources. What we're trying to do is get people to come to our website, hftd.org, and click on Find Help. That's one of the screens that I wanted to share with you here, just to kind of show you. I know that the overarching presentation isn't always the most exciting thing, especially when there's so few of us on the screen. But I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to show you something. So let me get this screen share going back up and show you our website. All right, so if you do have the opportunity and you are in need of talking to someone or finding a resource for a family member, I highly encourage you to check out our website and click on Find Help. This is one of the more inspiring things that we've actually been able to create in recent years. This is the funnel between a nationally vetted resource and a specific resource located in your community. So right here, I'll just type in my zip code. I am in Yorkville, Illinois. So if I click on, it switches, hold on 1 second. I have to switch my screen share because it opens up a new page. Sorry about that. All right, sorry about that. But if I do that, what it does is it opens up another screen that says I have 1,847 programs available to serve the people of Yorkville, Illinois. And granted, right now we're talking about mental health, but I'm going to mouse over health, go down to mental health, click on it, and now I have the ability to literally filter out anything that doesn't apply to me or the person I'm doing the research for. And this type of resource compass, we have not been able to find anywhere. And thankfully, we were able to partner with Aunt Bertha to provide a service that doesn't just show you what's available. You can actually use these personal filters and program filters to get rid of all of the things that don't especially apply to you. So if I know that I'm in Yorkville, Illinois, and I just need to talk to somebody, well, I don't need temporary shelter. I can go into these personal filters and I can say, I just need to talk to somebody right now. So if I scroll over, let me get your camera out of the way, sorry. Oh, they moved it over here on the right-hand side, cool. So if I move this over here, I'm a male, and I need just to talk to somebody. So it's gonna be mental health, so I'm gonna say anxiety, and I'll just say all mental health. And then I filter that search. I know that the results that I'm gonna get are gonna be specific to me being a male, and they're gonna be specific to mental health. And the other cool thing is that knowing that I'm not always accessible via transportation, on the left-hand side there, they're going to show me a map of where these services actually might be. So if I had a choice between a couple, I'd probably pick the one that was closest to me. So understanding that this type of service is now available, hftd.org is our website. It stands for Hope for the Day. We know that the Resource Compass is literally putting people in contact with those local resources that can help, that can become accessible. And it's also a good time to kind of mention that if you're ever in a situation where you don't understand how to help someone, the 3 easy things to do is 1, take the person seriously. 2, when you reach out for help, you don't always have to ask for, you don't have to call in the battalion. It's as simple as calling, whether it's 311 or your local health department, and asking, hey, I've got a friend of mine who is having a mental health crisis. Who's the first person I should reach out to? Sometimes they might actually ask you to call 911. And in that case, all you have to do is say, I have a non-violent mental health crisis going on, and I need someone here to talk to my friend. And then the third thing is just you stay with someone. You want to be able to act as a bridge to get someone to the help that they need. So it's understanding that you don't always have to know who to call. You just need to know that literally being there is far more important than having the right thing to say. And one of the things that we touch on in our longer education is that we don't always understand how we can impact those people around us, but the last thing we want to do is we don't want to pile on. If somebody's already carrying a large bag of drama, of their own drama that they think that they're incapable of carrying. The last thing you want to do is make it worse, right? So people always ask, well, I just don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, but I'll give you a quick recommendation. I have a 12-year-old son who is highly involved in video games right now. Around the first of the year, he came into my bedroom, I'm folding laundry, and he was bawling. Like, I had no idea what the heck had happened. I thought that somebody, had killed his goldfish. Doesn't even have a goldfish. What's going on? So I kind of waited. What's going on? And through tears and through sobbing, he basically told me that he got kicked out of his Fortnite clan, which Fortnite is a video game. A clan is a group of, players that kind of play together, and they go off and they try to win these battles together. Well, it's incredibly important to him. And I was about to say, it's a video game. Who cares? When I realized that the words that would have come out of my mouth at that moment probably could have shut him up for the rest of my life in a relationship with him. So I did the honest thing, and I said, what does this mean? And he kind of explained it to me. I was in a clan. I thought I was doing good. They said I wasn't good enough, and they kicked me out. And he was devastated. And I had no idea what to say, but I knew what not to say. I didn't poo-poo what he was experiencing. I didn't yuck his yum. I didn't do any of that. I didn't pile on. These are the 2 words that I want to teach you, because all you want to do is be on the same level with somebody. I said, that sucks. And then I just stayed there with him, because it wasn't my job to carry his weight, but I certainly did not need to pile onto that weight. And that's something that right now we all seem like we have these very, very important opinions, myself included. Sometimes when someone is emoting something that is bothering them, whether it's frustrations with work or the fact that they don't want to wear a mask or anything else that's going on, because we know life is complicated right now. You don't have to have an answer. You don't have to have a response. You just need to be there because you are, for some reason, either their friend or their family or a community member. So yes, you can disagree with people all you want. Perfectly acceptable. But the last thing you need to do when someone is passionate about something and they're emotional about something, you don't need to pile on. Because that's the issue right now that I'm seeing kind of everywhere in my life, is that we don't have these outlets that we used to do, because I know that live music was my savior. I needed it. I needed to be able to hear something and nothing else. Well, I don't have that right now. So my likelihood of, being a little stressed out is a little bit thicker than it normally is. Well, those around me know that sometimes I get frustrated at the stupidest stuff. Well, sometimes all I have to do is emote the fact that I'm frustrated with something and not get a response from the peanut gallery, and I can move on with my day. So I would encourage you guys not only to come to my website, hftd.org, but to consider the fact that you don't always have to have a response to things. You don't always have to pile on. Sometimes the best response is no response, and just to stay there, just to be there. So I would encourage you guys to reach out to myself or Rick, Joel at hftd.org or Rick at hftd.org. We're available on every social media at Hope for the Day, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram especially. And if there's ever anything that myself or Rick can help you or your community kind of discuss, we have a much longer, robust educational program that we provide. We wanted to keep this super short, knowing that it's a weeknight or a school night in the summer, so to speak. But we wanted to be able to kind of get out here and say, we're ready to talk when you are. So if you have anything you need, please shoot us a message. Please look us up on the social medias and give us a follow. And then hopefully once the world kind of reopens, we'll be able to do one of these things in person with a few more members of my organization. Because the last thing we want to do is assume that everybody's going to chime into a Zoom. I know that I am zoomed out. My partner, Carl, at Hope for the Day, I think he had over 6 hours clocked today on Zoom. So when we were getting closer to 7 o'clock, I was like, dude, just call it a day. Because you can kind of tell over the course of the day, you start melting into your background. Well, Hope for the Day is actually going to be taking its first week off in a very long time. Next week, we're going to kind of go radio silent to give myself and the rest of our staff a break, because that's something that we don't do enough of. Granted, we're not going anywhere. We're just going to turn the computers and the phones off for a little bit and kind of focus on nothing, because that's one of the things we need to do more of, is take care of ourselves. So again, my name is Joel Frieders. I'm a Scorpio. I like long walks on the beach and fluffy white pillows. If you need me, Joel at hftd.org. That's my friend Rick at hftd.org. And if you need anything, you know where to find me. And hopefully we'll be seeing you guys soon in person next time. And once again, thanks to the Westmont Public Library, Carmen especially, for having us here to have this brief conversation about mental health. And we encourage you to kind of open that conversation about mental health in your own communities and in your own house. And for sure, take a break, take a load off. It's okay not to be okay. Peace, everybody. Good night.